Welcome to Beyond the Lines. Today we have a great show lined up for you. I'm here at Wine Connection in Sukhumvit 47 and I'll be talking to American crime fiction thriller writer Tim Hallinan. Let's get scared. Hi Tim, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much
for being here.
Thank you.
Tim, what gets your ink flowing?
Necessity. I write for a living. I have to write every day whether I want to or not. Anthony Trollope said, if our bootmakers waited for inspiration, we'd all be barefoot. And the best quotation I know about creativity is Picasso, who said, inspiration exists, but it has to find you working. So I get up every day, I turn the computer on, I back up about 4 or 5 days in terms of what I've written. I make it better. By the time I hit the empty page, I'm back in the story so that I have a chance of hitting, because like all writers, I'm afraid of the white empty page. So this gets me into it slowly.
The blank spots.
Yeah, the blank, exactly.
Terrifying.
Making the first footprints in the snow is always scary.
It's kind of like opening one of your books. You just don't know what you're going to get. It terrifies me sometimes. Tell me about your connection to Thailand.
Well, I first came here in 1981. I had been in Asia, I'm not going to name the country, on the worst movie ever filmed. And I didn't want to stay there, so I called my travel agent and said, send me someplace where it's warm and I don't need a visa. And she sent me to Thailand. And she was a nice middle-class lady and I was a nice middle-class boy, so she thought he'd be safe in a Ramada. So she put me into a hotel called the Tawana Ramada, which is at the foot of Patpong on the Selam Road.
Fantastic.
And I walk out at 5 o'clock at night and here are all these suspiciously friendly girls and all these neon signs and I'm thinking, where am I?
Did you hear the word handsome during this?
Yeah, handsome man, you know.
Many times.
And it was true at that point, so.
Oh yeah, really?
But the thing is that I love this country because I love the people of this country. I mean, every cab driver I'm with, we talk all the way. Sometimes we sit at the curb and talk while the meter's still going. You know, it's just the people who take care of you, the people you make friends with. It's my favorite place in the world because of the people.
Yeah, they really have a lot of heart.
Yeah,
Don't they?
oh, they're all heart. They're all heart, and I have the good fortune to be able to write about that to some extent.
There's a lot of traditions and culture. And Thais are very non-confrontational. How do you blend culture? Tell me about culture comparison here. How you relate that to your
At the
writing.
center of the Poke Rafferty novels. Poke Rafferty is a travel writer. His real name is Philip. His father nicknamed him Poke because he pokes his nose into everything. He comes to Bangkok to write a book, a travel book about Bangkok. And he falls in love with the country and he falls in love with a certain woman. And they get married and they adopt a little girl off the streets. She's 8 years old or maybe 7. So there's a little pressure cooker, a little cultural pressure cooker, where 3 people who have completely different backgrounds, different expectations, different religions have to learn to coexist. Yeah. And Poke is really aware of the fact that he's not Thai, that he doesn't fully understand Thailand. He never will because I never will. And I said, when we were talking earlier, that it's like a shop window. Here's Thailand, here's the glass, and he's like this, trying to get through the glass. Even being married to a Thai, he's still not through the glass.
Yeah, there's a lot of layers.
Yeah, there's a lot of layers. And you know, as I think it's Christopher Moore says, there are 17 different Thai smiles. You know, and I've learned to distinguish maybe 4 of them. You know, really? I don't know whether that's true, but that's what Chris has.
Yeah. It's possible. I do believe there's a lot. There's a lot of do's. There's a lot of don'ts. Tell me about your Thai series.
The idea always was okay. Here's how it happened. New Year's Eve 2002. I had taken a couple years off writing to make enough money so I didn't have to do anything except write. And I was now on the edge of being able to do that. And New Year's Eve 2002, I walked through Bangkok and I wound up down in the poorest areas of Quang Toi. And everywhere I went, people came out and talked to me and they shared food with me. It's like the classic definition of communism. They don't have anything and they want to share it with you. And I thought, why doesn't anybody write about this? And immediately I thought, someone does. He's an American travel writer. And then I thought, this is my next book. And then I thought, he's got to be married so that people don't think he's in Bangkok for the reason that a lot of guys come to Bangkok.
Yeah.
So he's married, and then bang, I had met a little girl, a little street girl, and she became their adopted daughter. I met her when she was 7.
So she actually exists.
She exists, and her name actually is Meow, which is her name. I don't know where she is now. Can I tell this story? It'll take about 2 seconds.
Absolutely, yeah, I'm sure.
I was writing a book, one of my other books, in a restaurant on Patpong in the daytime. And I become aware that I'm being watched, and I look up, and here's a little girl like this on the outside. She's filthy, absolutely filthy, but the part in her hair is completely straight. She's got control of one thing. It's the part in her hair, and she is controlling it. So I looked at her, and she ran away.
Yeah.
Came back a couple days later. I looked at her. She ran away. I realized she's not looking at me. She's looking at the screen of the laptop. She's like all kids. They look at that screen and they go, "What the heck is that?" And so eventually I went like this, and she came in, and there was only one game. This is '81. There's only one game on the laptop. It was pinball. I set it up. I showed her how to flip the balls, and I went for a 45-minute walk. And when I came back, the booth was empty. There were 3 packs of gum. She was selling gum on my plate, and an astronomical pinball score. Absolutely astronomical.
Wow.
So from then on, we met in that restaurant once or twice a month. And then she disappeared at the age of about 14.
And she left you because the kids sold chewing gum,
She
didn't
sold
they?
chewing gum, and so she left me as a thank you 3 packs of chewing
That
gum that
is
were all
so-
fanned out. It was really pretty.
Oh, that is so cool.
Broke my heart when she went away.
But for someone to have so little and yet give you something of what she had, which was basically what she had to earn.
You know, there
money.
were almost no laptops at this point.
Yeah.
So her reaction to that screen was absolutely visceral.
Yeah.
And when you see now, you see a 4-year-old kid working a smartphone. I mean, this was a preview of what was to come. You know, a little girl who had nothing.
Yeah.
You know, sweetest little girl in the world. I have no idea where she is now.
Yeah, and I hope she has a laptop.
But in my books, she's doing really well.
She probably still holds the very highest pinball score in Bangkok.
Probably so.
Great. Tim, how many books have you written to date?
I've written 27 novels, 7 of which were written under other names, just for money up front. 2 of which are in pre-publication right now and will come out, one in about 10 days and one in December, a Christmas novel. And I've also edited a bunch of short story collections, my favorite of which is called Shaken Stories for Japan. I got 30 writers within literally the day after the tsunami in Japan in Fukushima to write short stories and give them to me, and we put it online 3 months to the day, and 100% of the money, even Amazon's share, they even gave their share, went straight to the Japan America Foundation. It raised more than $100,000 for relief on the ground in
That's
Japan.
incredible.
So, yeah, writers, you know, mystery writers are really generous people.
Yeah, that's good.
Really, really nice people.
It's amazing to know that people have come together for such a tragic event.
I didn't get a single no.
Yeah.
I asked 30 writers, I got 30 yeses. The
wow.
one, I got the 31st said, I don't know how to write a short story.
Oh, that's
So
nice.
there you are.
Just
He'd only-
wanted to
he'd only written novels.
contribute.
Yeah, he'd only written novels, but there you are. So he wrote the introduction and helped design the cover. So everybody said yes in one way or
That's
another.
incredible. That's
Yeah, it was
incredible.
great. It was great.
What book have you read and reread more than any other book?
This is kind of a cheat because it's 12 books. It's Anthony Powell's series, A Dance to the Music of Time, that begins with 4 putatively upper-class schoolboys. One of them actually isn't. He's a scholarship student. And follows them through 45 years. Powell wrote one every 3 years, the same way that Dickens wrote a chapter, and it was published, and he was stuck with whatever he'd written. He couldn't go back and fix it. And ends with them old men and England radically changed. And when the first 3 books of that series were published as a single hardcover called Spring, and then there was Summer, Fall, etc. And I was having major identity crisis at the age of about 24, and I read that book, and it put everything that had happened to my friends and me into perspective. So I've read Powell, I've read that whole series probably 5 times.
Incredible. Yeah.
Just great writing. Very polite, but very uncivilized in a lot of ways. Very savage in a lot
Very
of ways.
raw.
Yeah, but
right.
raw with gloves on.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Okay.
except for the villain. It's just wonderful.
If there was a book written that you've read, do you ever think, wow, that's a great book, I wish I thought of that, what would that book be?
Oh boy. Alice in Wonderland.
Wow, and why? Why?
Because Carol created a world that turned everything upside down and changed the way that Alice and the people who read it think about the world that they take for granted. You know, through the looking glass, it actually is a mirror reversal of everything, and it's also brilliant writing and very funny and very sweet.
Yeah.
Alice in Wonderland.
Wow.
I
Great.
mean, I feel like Thailand is Wonderland. I feel like when I
Sometimes.
write Thailand, I'm essentially writing Wonderland.
Yeah.
It's so different from America, and it puts so much of America in high relief. You understand more about Polk because of who he isn't here in Thailand.
That's
He's
right.
not Thai. He's, you know, so.
But it's also very different to other Asian countries too. It
Absolutely.
has something completely unique.
Absolutely.
Doesn't it? You know?
No place in the world like it.
So how do you stay creative?
Boy, that's a hard one. I write 7 days a week, and almost all my ideas, aside from something like a title, King Maybe, come to me either when I'm writing or in between writing sessions.
Yeah.
If I don't have characters moving, I don't get story. If I don't sit down, essentially blindfold, I mean, there's no trail to follow,
Yeah.
and plow in to something, then I don't know what. When you write a plot, a plot is essentially just a process of change. The end of a book, something is very different than it was at the beginning of the book. As you move through the book, that change accumulates behind the characters. It's like a wind blowing them forward, and you don't get that unless you've written 150 pages, 75 pages.
Yeah.
So, I'm creative because I have to be, because it's the way I am anyway. I'm a terrible liar, and that's something that I do when I fictionalize too. Actually, writing books is an excuse for not lying as much as I used to.
Well, yeah, okay. That's a good idea. When you're writing, do you listen to music?
Non-stop. I have my iPhone by a company we shall not name. Has 1,000 albums on it.
Wow.
I have the best earbuds in the world. They're not expensive. They're made by a company called Rain, and they're about $40, but they're wood.
Oh.
There's no plastic, so you get the kind of acoustics that you get in a wooden
That's
conference
great.
hall.
Yeah, interesting.
And I write, if I'm writing women, I listen to mainly women. If I'm writing action, I listen. There's a long sequence in this one, adventure sequence in this one, where someone's in the water surrounded by sea wasps and she's got to get to shore. And I used Ravel's Concerto for the Left Hand, which is just totally percussive and spooky and scary. And at the end of every book, I talk about what the music is that I use to write it, and I invite people to suggest new music to me. I get 150 pieces of fan mail a week because people are trying to suggest new writing, new music.
Yeah, that's
for me to
fantastic.
listen to. And I discover a lot of great music that way.
Interesting. It's always interesting to know what a writer would listen to writing a certain type of book or be inspired by.
You know, it supplies, it's an energy source for me, and it reduces the anxiety, because there's always I'm always anxious, except when I'm actually picked up and I'm just trying to get it all down as fast as I can. It's like you'll write along, and all of a sudden it's as though a window opens behind you and something comes right through the window and through you, and you know where you're going for the next 30 pages, 40 pages. You just get it as fast as you can. That's when rhubarb is really valuable, because you don't want to lose that impulse. You don't want to slow down because, no, she didn't pick up the drink in her left hand. Who cares? Rhubarb, and just keep moving.
Yeah, okay, keep going, keep it flowing.
Keep it flowing.
Advice for writers starting out, you know. What does Tim Hallinan
Okay,
think?
write, read. That's it.
That's
Write
it.
every single day, read every single day. You'll learn more from writing and reading. Don't read books about how to write novels unless they're written by an actual novelist, okay?
Yeah.
And there is one called Bird by Bird by a wonderful American novelist named Anne Lamott. Read that one. Don't read any other ones. There are no rules.
Okay.
Okay? You got to write every day, because otherwise you're not going to get your chops, you're not going to finish. You got to read all the time. Do not wait for inspiration.
Okay.
Inspiration is nonsense. It comes when you're working.
Okay.
You know, you sit down every night and play, and you start out relatively okay. I'm doing this. And 10 minutes in, you're completely in a different space. You know,
Yep.
and that's what happens when if you're lucky.
It's kind of like channeling. You just
absolutely
go,
right.
go to this place while you're in the.
But that's not going to happen unless you've played those first 7 or 8 minutes. Unless you've written those first 5 or 6 pages.
Yeah. So you've written, is it 1 or 2 books on creative writing?
Yes, I've written 2 books. One will come out sometime late this summer. That's called The End, Writing to Finish.
Okay.
And I've got 31 writers who gave me what their routine is and what they do when they get in trouble, and I'm structuring chapters all around that. And it's all pretty much the same thing, write and write and write and write and write.
Yeah.
You know, and this came out of every time I do a talk in a bookstore, which I've done probably 1,000 of. Some idiot says, you know, I could write a book if I just had the time. And I listened to that for a long time. And then finally I started saying, oh, BS. You have the time. You just don't want to write the book. If you met somebody tomorrow and you thought, this is the most beautiful person I've ever met, could you find the time for that person? Of course you could.
Of course you could.
Well, guess what? That's your book. Your book is your new relationship. You got to give it a place. You got to give it a frame of time that belongs to the book. And if you don't do that, you'll never write the book.
Yeah. And you got to put the work in.
You got to be sitting there working. Inspiration exists, but it has to find you working. Single best thing I know about creativity.
Tim Hallinan,
Okay.
thank
My
you so
pleasure.
much for being on
Totally
this
my
show.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you for watching, and we'll see you again, and look forward to your next book.
Great. Me too. Thank you for having me. I really
You're welcome.
appreciate it.
It's been a pleasure.
Okay.
Thank you.